Mrs. America was one of my unexpected discoveries of this television season. Don't you just love those? When in the maze of all new titles and promotional campaigns, you stumble upon something truly exciting and eye-opening. Well, I stumbled upon a limited series created by Davy Waller, a former staff writer of Mad Men. And this series tells the story of the political movement to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment in the United States. In every series, I look for three main things. First, an intriguing premise. What is the world that the series is set in? What forces are at work in this world? Is it something new, something exciting, unexplored, something I've never seen before? Two, a compelling internal conflict. What does the main character want? What does she need? What are her flaws that prevent her from achieving what she wants? Do the same flaws stand in her way of obtaining what she needs too? In a nutshell, what is the driving force behind the story that keeps pushing the character into challenging and captivating situations? And finally, a relevant theme. Is there a larger topic that the series wants to explore? Does the series have anything meaningful to say about society or the humankind? Does it provoke me to reflect on my own choices, my own environment, life in general? And Mrs. America has a very fine balance of all the above. Let's start with the premise. The series is set in the 1970s, the peak of the second wave of feminism in the US. It is loosely based on real historical events and features some eccentric historical figures. Gloria Steinem, a media personality and spokeswoman for the feminist movement, also known for her looks. Betty Friedan, the author of The Feminine Mystique, that is said to have sparked the second wave of feminism in the States. Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to the US Congress. Bella Abzug, the head of President Jimmy Carter's National Advisory Commission for Women. Jill Ruckelshaus, the head of the White House Office of Women's Program. The film producer Brenda Fagan, and above all, Phyllis Schlafly, a former model, a mother of 6, and the chief campaigner against ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment in the US Constitution, played by the unsurpassable Cate Blanchett. Well, it's probably already evident that the world full of so many strong personalities cannot do without heated arguments, glorious parties, wild marches, and fierce campaigns. It is great to watch two different women's movements at work. A movement of a diverse group of women that passionately seek liberation outside and within themselves. And a movement of housewives that on the surface seem calm, meek, submissive, but whose polished smiles and perfectly made up faces hide a lot of repressed anger and a great deal of emotional turmoil. In a way, both these movements fought for the same thing, influence and recognition in both their homes and society. But their strategies and weapons were very different. The feminists worked hard to demonstrate their competences, education, self-acceptance, whereas the conservative activists, the housewives, demonstrated outstanding manipulation skills and tried to work through their husbands, churches, families. The series tries to shed light on internal conflicts and struggles that both movements hid from the public eye. And in that way, the audience becomes conspirators of both movements. And that's very thrilling and exciting, at least to me. It's common knowledge among screenwriters and series creators that a story is only as good as its villain. The villain should by no means think of herself as a villain. In her eyes, she is doing the right thing, and the protagonist is in her way of saving the world. Phyllis Schlafly, the Mrs. America of the series, makes a great villain. She fights for American housewives' rights to stay at home and take care of their families, instead of going to work, university, or God forbid, the army. Or does she? Phyllis Schlafly was an educated woman. She had a bachelor's degree in political sciences and a master's degree in government. She worked at a conservative think tank in DC and even won the Republican primary. In the series, she also publishes a monthly newsletter, the Phyllis Schlafly Report, in which she educates her supporters about the dangers of communism and the nuclear war. In fact, she would like nothing more than being an advisor to the president on the policy of defense. But she quite quickly realizes that as a woman, she has no chance of winning the general election with such an agenda. Who is going to take a woman's views on defense policies seriously? Definitely not the Republican electorate. And that's why Mrs. Schlafly sees a great opportunity in opposing the Equal Rights Amendment. By advocating the popular opinion about women's issues, she hopes to accumulate enough political and social capital to be treated as an equal by her male peers in the Republican Party. And she manages to assemble and train an army of conservative housewives to help her. Phyllis Schlafly is a feminist, Bella Abzug declares in one of the scenes of the series. And she's right, because Mrs. Schlafly, as is customary to feminists, fights for her right to be recognized and appreciated for her knowledge and competences, regardless of her gender. But instead of openly acknowledging that, she chooses to do the opposite, to pretend that she opposes women's right to work on equal terms with men. Interestingly enough, this choice backfires. The men of the Republican Party cannot bring themselves to take Mrs. Schlafly seriously. Although she's instrumental in helping Ronald Reagan win his presidency, he ends up not making her his Secretary of Defense, despite all the promises that he made to her during the campaign. And that brings me to the theme of the series. The Equal Rights Amendment, whose central underlying principle was that sex should not determine legal rights of men and women, was not ratified by the requisite majority of 38 states, and never became the 27th Amendment to the US Constitution. So it might seem that Mrs. Phyllis Schlafly won and got what she wanted. However, at the end of the series, she doesn't seem like a winner at all. After she receives the disappointing news from Reagan, we see her go to her kitchen, put on her apron, and start peeling apples for a pie. Mrs. America got what she bargained for, the position of a good housewife instead of a position at the White House. But it is a very bittersweet moment. On the one hand, I thought this outcome served her right. But on the other hand, I felt incredibly sad that such a smart, resourceful, and assertive woman will never get to realize her full potential. And this way, the series beautifully reveals that until we treat all members of our society equally, everybody will keep losing, even those who fight on the seemingly winning side.